it's easy to avoid sadness because there are so many different things that we can do to distract ourselves from sad feelings that come up. And, you know, if you're at a traditional job, nobody wants to see you crying. And it's easy to get the impression, too, that you have to be on top of things and you have to be feeling good in order to be liked. And that's just silly, because sometimes grief, sadness, it's all part of being human. I was feeling some tension build up. We're in the middle of Mercury in retrograde as I speak, and felt more compulsively needy of something outside of myself recently. And then this morning I woke up and hadn't had a full night's sleep, and I noticed there was a message waiting for me on the phone, was blinking, and it was from the website hosting company GoDaddy. And I was with them a short time, but then I didn't like the way that they would exploit women in their ads, and so I stopped using them. This is maybe a year ago, or a year and a half. So I didn't expect to hear from them. They said that my email, I didn't know I had an email, was expired, and to call them if I wanted to continue or something like that. I didn't even know I had an email still, or even really that I ever did. But the symbolism of that is that today or tomorrow is the anniversary, well, my father's birthday it would have been. He died 8 years ago, and it was very tragic because he killed himself. And he and I were never really close growing up, but we did reconnect about a month before his death. I think he knew he was going to kill himself already at that time. And I've felt resolved for 4 years or so, 4 or 5 years, more at peace with his death. Maybe not that long. But it was very painful for the first year in particular, and for a couple years after that. So I thought there was symbolism of the website GoDaddy calling on what would have been his birthday, because his birthday and anniversary of his death are two dates that traditionally have caused a lot of pain. Oh, and I said today or tomorrow because I never knew if it's the September 1st or September 2nd was his birthday. And since his death, I haven't wanted to know or look it up to kind of diffuse the anniversary date, I guess. It spreads it out more, but it also diffuses it. If it feels too painful, I could say, well, maybe it's yesterday or maybe it's tomorrow. But anyways, it's still that time of thinking about him. One of those times, along with the anniversary of his death, and also Father's Day brings that stuff up. So I just let myself cry a little bit, and it's hard to cry. Like, for me, I have to kind of jumpstart it, and, you know, it feels good, though. It feels like a release. Something about just the breath of... and then, like... there's always that big breath. And it's a real powerful form of release. And I didn't even have to do it that much to feel release and feel better. And I fell back asleep, and I woke up. I was like, oh, it's another really hot day. I can feel it already inside my house. Even with the air conditioning on, it's another little heat wave going on, which also increases stress. So it's like the pressure cooker's up, and maybe I need to feel some more sadness, do some more little jump-started crying. And with my resistance to crying, I think that with men, I recently heard about this connection between testosterone and resistance to crying, and that there was somebody going through a procedure to change their gender from female to male, and noticed as the testosterone amount increased that it was harder to cry. And that I thought was really interesting. And he said that he missed crying, missed the release. and could still do it, but had to really work on it. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting that it's so connected to testosterone. It's easy to think, well, maybe it's socialization for men, but there's this kind of chemical component to it. And I've had, a kind of envy for people who can cry easily, because I know it is a really therapeutic release. But I haven't known any men that I can think of offhand that have cried easily. And so that could be a testosterone component. I also was thinking today about how addictions may be related to resistance to feeling sadness. Because if there's something kind of welling up within us, we feel a tension building, a discomfort building, and it could be an accumulation of grief, like in my case today, not necessarily about my father, but just an accumulation of losses. There's a large amount of losses that we experience in life, just through the changes that naturally occur in our life, and changes in relationship that occur as well, and things are not static. So it's an ongoing process of releasing, letting yourself feel the sadness, and of course letting yourself feel the anger as well. I've done some videos on that as well in the past. But I do believe as we experience discomfort coming up, it can bring up the desire to turn to addictions. It could be, drinking, smoking, drugs, food, attention, distraction, escape. There's so many different forms of it all, of things that we can get addicted to, or things that we can use to escape from our feelings. But there's real usefulness, I think, in leaning into whatever's coming up instead of retreating from it. Move into it and let yourself feel it and let yourself cry, because if you don't, you might attract more intense experiences. When I was thinking about this connection with testosterone and resistance to crying, I thought about how maybe that's why a lot of men turn to getting wasted drunk so they can let some feelings out and it won't be embarrassing because, well, I was drunk. Or it could also lead to being drawn towards something intense like being in the military, because you're so armored that it takes being shot or losing a friend or other kinds of trauma or tragedy to allow you to feel, to break through that armor and to allow you to get to a deeper place of emotional expression, and it's still being okay. That it's okay to cry when your friend gets blown up. But the thing is, it's really okay to cry at any point. It's part, I think, of how our emotional, psychological system that we have as humans is set up to let ourselves let go and release something so we can move forward more freshly. And I think that when you allow yourself to purge and release and let it out, let your tears out and let yourself cry, things can feel renewed and refreshed. And that accumulation of tension and pain and whatever that can make everything different, it goes away. And all of a sudden you have more of a clean slate, a blank canvas in front of you in which to paint your life upon. And I think that can be a very, very renewing type feeling, which is healthy. So, there's no need to avoid sadness, no need to avoid crying. Let yourself feel it, and let yourself grieve fully so that you're not carrying around things that hold you back from moving forward in life. That's what I've learned.